This tutorial is on how to edit and create new shapefiles. When we did this in class, if you remember, we did it within a file geodatabase. So that's definitely one way if you wanted to create a new piece of geographic data, you put it in a geodatabase, and we'll cover that in the geodatabase lesson. You can also just create new shapefiles directly without them being in a geodatabase. Since we didn't run over that in class, that's what I'll do for this. So most of the times when you're creating something new, it's going to happen in ArcCatalog. Creating the file first, then you'll bring it into ArcGIS to draw. So if I go to Editing, or apologies, which is the folder I'm storing it in, you may store it somewhere else, and I right-click New, I have several options, and the one I'm going to want is a shapefile. So it's pretty easy. It's going to ask you for three things. One, what are you going to name it? I'm going to name this polygon shape. Ask you what it's going to be. In this instance, it's going to be a polygon. Remember, polygon's a series of vertices that connect. Polyline, a couple of coordinate points that connect. Point, just a one coordinate point. Finally, a spatial reference wants to know the coordinate system in which this is going to be projected or drawn. If you know where something's going to be in the world, like for example, I want this to be in southern Pennsylvania, then I would pick the projected coordinate system that I'm working on for that area. If you're still not comfortable with coordinate systems, but you have other pieces of geographic data, and you know that the coordinate system should be the same, you could use the import function. Again, right here, the world, import, until you find an appropriate piece of data. There you go. Name, type, and spatial reference. Oh, didn't even need to drag it in. So it drug it in for me. Obviously you see nothing because there is nothing. If I go to the attribute table, it has certain attributes, but nothing has populated them yet. I'm going to add a field right now, and the reason will become known in a moment. Make it a text. It's a text field, and it has a length of 50. Its name, its text, and its length. I'm going to find some small other piece of data just to bring in right here, Philadelphia boundaries. I'm going to zoom to them. Just so you know, when I bring in a file that has no anything drawn, any polygons or anything, it can't zoom into anything because your shape could be anywhere. So if you're going to be drawing on something, there you go. It's good to zoom into an area you want to draw, and now we can begin. So the quickest way to get to the editor is to click the shape you want to edit, polygon shape, and go down to Edit and hit Start Editing. Toolbar will come up, the editor toolbar with some information. Most important thing is here at the end, the Create Features. When you click that, that lets you control the features that you want to create here. Click on it. You'll notice you have certain abilities. You can have a polygon, draw a rectangle directly, a circle, an ellipse, freehand. For now, we'll start with just polygon. Once I clicked it, you'll notice these three things came up. Let's start with the first, trace segment. And really what this is just the ability to draw a series of vertices, and I double click when I'm finished. Here's my second shape, and my third. Very nice. Here, similar is the ability to draw a shape, stop, and then curve it up or curve it down depending on where you chose your 2 points. Double clicking will end it. Starting a new shape here, if I start drawing and I right click, I'll notice I have a series of options. Direction, I want this to go 190 degrees. And notice no matter how hard I push up or down, the line can go as long as it wants, but this line segment can only go at a 190 degree angle from where it began. Right click again, I might do length. Say this can only go 10,000 feet. In this instance, I can go any direction I want, but notice that I'm only able to go 10,000 feet. Others, deflection, which will base it off of the last angle. You can pick an absolute xy or a sort of delta xy, which would be a range of xy. You could assign direction and length. So this is when you would need to make an exact line, right? So I want something that's going off at 90 degrees, and that is exactly 20,000 feet. And there's my line. Didn't even give me an option to create something because it went off at 20 degrees, or sorry, at 90 degrees and went 20,000 feet. Another interesting one I want to talk about is parallel and perpendicular, but to make them work properly, to get out of here, oops, that's good actually that happened. I clicked somewhere I didn't want to click. Edit, undo, add vertice. You can do that as many times as you want. It'll keep deleting your previous vertices. All right, now let's say I wanted to make it parallel to this line here. So if I right-click that line and I chose parallel, notice, right, it's staying parallel to the line that I clicked. I'll do it again right here. Right-click, parallel, and it stays parallel to that line. You can do the same thing with perpendicular lines as well. You can make a tangent curve. Streaming is not something necessarily as interesting here, but it's really where you just kind of hold your mouse down and move it, and the shape will draw a bunch of vertices to follow. One other important piece I want to show you here, oops, made another, do one. If I open the attribute table, I count 5 shapes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can delete shapes either from the attribute table, or rather, before we even do that, I created that name field so that I could put information. This shape, that shape, me shape, and so on. The reason I added the field early, you'll see that it's grayed out here. And that will always remain true. You cannot add fields when you're in editor mode. So again, anytime you want to add a field, you add it before. This is not a problem in the geodatabases, as you're usually prompted to create your fields first, so it gives you a better reminder. So I don't like some of these fields. I can right-click it on its row and delete it. I can also use this arrow to click, oops, and delete, right-click. I can use that same arrow to move it. Once I'm settled on everything, save edits. Make sure you save edits, because if something crashes, this shapefile won't save. So 2 and 2. The last trick I wanted to show, when you take this and start drawing, let's say I wanted to make an island chain, right? Well, there's my first attempt at an island chain. Now, I know that's not an island, obviously. This is Montgomery County, but we're using our imaginations here. If I select all 3 of these features and I open the shape, my island chain treats each island individually, and that's perfectly fine. Maybe that's what you want to do. But you might actually want to make it that anytime you click on any one of these, every other piece in the island chain is part of the same feature. It's a single part feature, right? They're the same feature, but they're discrete geographically. And you do that, there we go, by drawing, and right when you're about to complete, instead of double clicking, right click and do finish part. Notice they're still green. Right click, finish part, and then I will finish it here. Now if I open the attribute table, even though 3 are selected, it's only 1 row. Some other abilities that you have, one of the most important is to edit vertices. So if I click on something and do edit vertice, notice my edit vertice tab pops up. And you imagine you can pull, stretch the vertices in new directions. You can add new vertices along lines. And you can take away existing ones. Finish the sketch will allow you to finish it. Another interesting thing is the Cut Polygons tool. So if I have a polygon here and I draw something through it, oops, I've now cut it into 2 discrete polygons. Notice if I select both of them, 2 discrete. It's not like the islands that I created earlier. What if you wanted to make something that was flush right along this edge? Well, your one option that we learned before would be you very carefully trace it. Maybe that works, and I'm sure a lot of the time. But if I zoom in, did I get it all? Yeah, but there are areas where I'm not flush. So how do we make it flush? I would draw something, then part of it intersects the area with which I want to make it flush. I'm now selecting a completely different shapefile. So keep in mind, this could have been the same thing. I could have selected one of these had they overlapped too. But I'm selecting a totally different one now. Under the editor menu, I have the option to clip. I have the option to preserve the area that intersects, right? So the only area that will be preserved is that. Or what I want is to discard. I want everything that's under the pink to leave. And that's what I do. Now when I zoom in, I'll be able to see it's flush and perfectly flush right next to it. Definitely other things you can do with the editor toolbar, but those are the primary ones. Any other ones you want to work on, such as your snapping options, or to learn different ways to draw lines or vertices, I suggest you play around with yourself. Once you're finished, I lost my toolbar. If that ever happens to you, you can go to Customize Toolbars Editor. It'll come back. Save your edits. Stop editing means it stops. Just as a reminder, what we did in class was make a polygon shape, but you can also, new shapefile, make a point class. And I want it to take on the same coordinate system I always use. You could import as well. It comes in here, edit. Should see your point class up here. And point's just a little different. You simply have points. Double clicking it makes a point stay. This time I'm not going to save, and you can see that they go away. One final thing I want to show you. Let's say I went in here and I named these shapes some random names. So these, I'm going to make them green. These I'm going to make blue. And these I'm going to make red. And the reason for this will become clear in a moment. So I'm going to go to Properties. I'm going to give them a symbology that's reflective. Blue will be blue. Green will be green. And red will be red. Looks nice. Now if I edit them again, what shows up originally was the last thing that I was editing. So I can delete these, and I'm going to create a new template. So go to Organize Templates. I want this template to be per polygon shape. And notice that when you create a new template, it'll automatically take on the template that you've symbolized things. And this is important because now if I click blue, I've drawn a blue shape. And now if I click green, I've drawn a green shape. And if I select these two shapes that I just drew, not only did I draw a blue and a green shape, but I created blue and green in their attribute table.